Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's Pete the DIY mechanic here. We're going to be talking about the engine. So this engine is for my 1998 BMW 318 IS. If you're not familiar with this engine, this is the m44b19 engine. It is a 4-cylinder and it's got a 1.9 liter displacement, 103 kilowatts, so it's like 140 horsepower or something like that. So we're just going to talk about some stuff about the engine because there's really no platform for this specific engine on YouTube. So if you have this car, then this is the video for you. As you can tell, if you know anything about BMW engines, there's some shit missing right here, and we'll talk about that. So first things off the bat, obviously cold air. There's a cold air intake. Basically, if you don't know this engine and it comes stock. So basically from here you have your throttle body. Here is where the sensor is, and then anything past here, so this is all cold air intake. And stock, from right here there's a big box, your filter box, and it comes out under the filter box over the radiator and the fan, and then the intake is actually right near the washer fluid, and it sucks air in from that side. So basically what I did is I just added like a short pipe. I believe this is like a 2.5 inch, maybe 2 inch pipe here with a little rubber grommet, and then if you look, I have the actual cone right there, and then fabricated a little mount. This is where the filter box mount is, so I just made a little thing with a couple screws in this like metal bracket, and it sits in place nicely. It doesn't really shake at all. So yeah, as you can tell here, if I zoom in, if I move you over a little bit. So if you this secondary little air cone here, you might be wondering what that is. It actually connects to a secondary air pump. So this line goes underneath there, and right underneath the sensor body here there's a secondary air pump. And factory, this little hose, which is a 1.5 inch hose, connects into the filter box stock. So what you do, if you do install cold air intake for this engine, just get a 1.5 inch cone off Amazon, put it on there, and you're good to go. No worries. I will leave a link in the description for this cold air intake and the cone if you want it. And that's basically the only thing that's not stock, or that is not stock on the engine. Everything else is. So I'll just basically give you guys like a little description of what everything is on this engine. If you don't know, if you're not familiar, I'm not a certified mechanic or anything. I'm just self-taught and wanted to work on my car. So if you have this engine, like I said before, I'll give you a little rundown of what we have here. Okay, so starting on the left side, so we have the valve cover, which is right here, and it's obviously the engine's kind of like on a slant. Usually you'll have an engine like this, straight, kind of the valve cover being perpendicular with the top, but no, it's slanted. So this makes it kind of weird to work on because the exhaust manifold is kind of like on the bottom end of the car on that side, which does give you a little bit of room if you want to put a turbo in. But I mean, it's really hard to work because you would have to put the car in the lift if you wanted to do anything like on that side of the engine. But so yeah, this is the valve cover. Underneath this little BMW thing right here, you actually have your spark plugs. So if you want to check your spark plugs, they're underneath this little cap, and you can just take it off with the flathead and it comes off. It's just plastic. This big thing right here, it is your intake manifold, and this is your throttle body right there. If I zoom in here for you, so you have these are your injectors and your fuel rail. So that goes right underneath the intake manifold. So it does make it a little bit of a pain in the ass, because if you wanted to replace your injectors, you need to take off your intake manifold, and it's kind of a lot of stuff to do. But yes, that is the injectors and your fuel rail. And the actual plugs. The plugs here come into this box from the bottom. So it may look like they're coming from that side of the engine, but they're actually coming from this side around the back. This side just has your intake manifold, and yeah, it's just your intake manifold. The rest is just the wires coming around from this side. So that's your fuel rail. And then here, this thing, cylinder thing, is your filter, your oil filter. So when you replace your oil, if you do it at home, you would replace this. It's your oil filter. This is the cap for your oil. Can you see that? Nope. That's your oil cap when you're putting in oil. And your dipstick is going to be the little red tip right there. That's your dipstick. Check your oil level. Okay, so now what we have is a little bit to the left, to the right of the oil filter. This thing right here, that's your alternator. So that's what supplies the power to the car when it's on. And if you come down a little bit, right here, you will find your power steering reservoir. So that's kind of a common leak in this car, the power steering reservoir. So if you need to, if your car's ever leaking near this side, you know, always check the power steering reservoir. When you actually have the filter box and all the piping for the stock intake, it's really hard to tell where it is because you have to like reach in and under. So when you take it off, it's a lot easier. But yeah, this is your power steering reservoir. And then you have a little bit up here. You have more. This is your fuse box. Okay. And then right there is your coolant reservoir. So when you gotta put coolant in the car, that's where you put it in. And obviously the blue big container is for the wipers or the washer fluid. And I mean, that's basically the most important things that you're gonna want to know. Obviously your timing stuff, your belt, and that kind of stuff is all there in the front. That's pretty obvious. And like, you know, if you need, like, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty open. Like obviously this is your valve cover, so you take that off. If you gotta work. Another common issue with this engine is actually, if you can tell, the valve cover gasket was shot. And this car is a 98. It only has 20,000 kilometers on it. Or sorry, 60,000 kilometers on it. So it was barely driven. But this gasket was shot, so it was leaking from the valve cover, so I had to replace it. But I didn't just use a normal gasket. I used like a special adhesive, which creates a better bond, so we wouldn't have any leaks. And since then we haven't had any leaks, so that's good. Yeah, so this is basically the engine bay. It's not that extravagant. I mean, it's only a 4-cylinder, but the car is like just over 2,000 pounds, I'm pretty sure, so it has a little bit of a kick, you know. The intake actually makes a lot. People say it doesn't make any noise or any difference, but I'm telling you, this makes the car sound a lot deeper. It has like a roar. It's obviously not like a really big or like good intake. It's just like a pipe and a filter cone with the sensor in it. But I mean, hey, I can definitely feel it when I'm driving, so that's a good sign. It does sound pretty good. The car's good on gas as well. Also, the battery, if you're wondering where the battery is, it's actually in the trunk of the car. So if you ever need a jump start or whatever, the battery's in the back of the car, in the trunk, underneath a little plastic thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the engine and the main kind of components that you'll be needing or looking for when troubleshooting the car or just like servicing it, if that's what you want to do. So if you have any more questions or want to see a different type of video or anything like that, you know, leave a comment down below, and I'm sure I'll make a video on it. I'm pretty new to this, but I'm gonna learn a lot, and if I make any mistakes, feel free to let me know. And yeah, that's it for this video. This is the M44b19 4-cylinder BMW engine. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.